it just builds a high level of trust that people feel like you're not taking credit for their work, have their best interests in heart, and that they're accurately being represented in the organization. And lots of times in organizations, people treat information as currency and leverage. And therefore, there's all sorts of games that get played around that. It's a scary thing for folks, particularly in work, when it's all tied up with your income, your family, your outside life. The amount of information flowing back up to me was even more than I anticipated.
What changes did you see in yourself and in the people that you were working with before you found that book and started applying its lessons and bringing in from the other sources that you had brought up, and after you started doing that?
Yeah, I think the one of the changes in me was that when I stopped kind of playing a lot of the kind of corporate communications game, and just I'm a fairly frank person anyway, and I wouldn't say blunt, but like very to the point. And I think when I started to marry that with sharing information, because out of necessity, more people had to know what was going on. And lots of times in organizations, people treat information as currency and leverage. And therefore, there's all sorts of games that get played around that. And so for a big change for me was really being even more open with people about why we're doing things, the strategy, and that open communication, I think, got to be mirrored in my teams. And so therefore, people were starting to be a lot more honest about things. And frankly, when you manage people, I was talking to a bunch of people at KPMG yesterday about this, is that folks that work for you or you're managing teams, they know when you're not sharing everything. They know when you're not telling the whole truth. They're not, we spend all this time, finding and hiring and managing and shepherding the careers of really smart people. And then a lot of folks try and treat them like children, then don't tell them what's going on. So they kind of know anyway. So your own credibility gets undermined rather quickly if you play those games. So I started to see a big uptick in the amount of information that was getting shared with me, which then helped me manage differently and be much more effective in kind of running things or managing change, because change is just such a complicated idea in terms of how people act, what's the reward structure with doing things differently. Can I align towards that? It's a scary thing for folks, particularly in work, when it's all tied up with your income, your family, your outside life. So that was one of the bigger changes that I saw, is that the amount of information flowing back up to me was even more than I anticipated. And the I guess attrition or loyalty or the people buying into what we wanted to do got even greater.
Do you have a sense of which things in particular you were doing that helped encourage that trust back up to grow?
Yeah, I think that the people in general don't want to feel like they're kind of being BS'd, for lack of I'm going to use a technical term there, right? That they feel like what they're being told is the truth, or as close to the truth that can be shared, or what to be the truth is. And that instills a lot of confidence, right? And there's a feeling of like trust, right? That requires you to be honest about what's going on. And without that kind of base level, that honesty there, that people feel like even if you don't know everything, you're telling them as much as you know. That just instills a level of trust that people feel like, because it's a big responsibility to, shepherd somebody's career. And I really look at it as kind of a participation part. It's not just, I'm the manager and then here's the things you have to do. I mean, I think it's as old school as that sounds, you still see a lot of people managing like that. And you get a lot of very, well, what did you do for me today lately? Attitudes from mid-level managers. It's still a big gap, I think, in particularly in technology management. team management, where people use really kind of unenlightened or pop ideas around how to manage, and I always has looked at it as kind of I'm sponsoring you, I'm trying to you know what's the word I'm looking for, endorse and advocate for you. That's the in places you can't be, right, or you're not able to be, so in rooms you can't be in, and advocate for my team. So it just builds a high level of trust that people feel like you're not taking credit for their work, you have their best interests in heart, and that they're accurately being represented in the organization. Yeah.
That goes back to what you said at the beginning of we can't maybe ever bring all of ourselves into work or any other context. And maybe one of the things I'm taking from what you're saying and the experiences you're relating is that how much of ourself isn't so important. And especially, as you said, that some of us are comfortable bringing more of ourselves than others are. And that's perfectly okay. What matters more than what percentage we're bringing is how open we are about how much we're bringing and the communication, how we communicate that. So it's perfectly fine to say, I've got a lot going on at home right now. I'm probably going to be kind of distracted today for this week or this month. And that can be enough. We don't have to go into the gory details of what that is, where other people may be comfortable saying in more detail what's going on. And that both of those are fine. And the same happens with all the business information, that we may, however much information we're getting from other parts of the organization about changes that are coming, or how a particular shift is or isn't taking hold across different parts of the organization, passing all that on verbatim to the people that we're responsible for and helping isn't necessarily the best way to help them. And navigating that balance of how much do I tell who, when, and why is really challenging.